trade offer. You can activate spell cards, but if you do, I get to summon 4 gigantic dragons totaling up to 11,800 attack, covering 3 different summoning mechanics, one of which has a negate, one of which is immune to monster effects, one of which when it attacks can banish one of your opponent's monsters, and one can mimic any of your monsters and basically just steal their effects. Does that sound fair to you? Oh, and did I mention that if you don't use a spell card, I still get a 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense beat stick to beat your ass with. And this is all set up from just one singular trap card. Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me. So here's today's deck list. Well, sort of. But before we get into the deck list, just a reminder, if you're enjoying today's video and want to see more content just like this in the future, remember to leave a like on this video and consider subscribing to the channel down below, especially if you're a returning viewer, as apparently about 50% of people watching this or even subscribed to the channel, nearly all of you are returning viewers who have seen my stuff before. So you find yourself keep coming back to the channel and want to see more content just like this in the future, remember to leave a like down below and consider subscribing. Alright, let's get into the deck list. So obviously, as you've probably already noticed, I'm not exactly showing you a deck list right now. That's because all I wanted to show you is the combination of cards you can run in literally any deck list you like. Literally anything. Limitations and restrictions don't even really work on this deck list, as you're summoning stuff during your opponent's turn anyway, so most restrictions are end of turn anyway, so you can literally stick this in anywhere where you have the space for it. And it's effectively just a really cool version of things like anti-spell or any sort of anti-spell card sort of effect. This is just a way more fun version of it. So instead of using a card like Anti-Spell Fragrance, which just stops your opponent being able to use any spell cards at all, how about we let them use spell cards, but we punish them heavily if they do so? This is because the brand new trap card just added to the game, Soul of the Supreme King. Pay half your life points, special summon 1 Supreme King Xyz from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, but negate its effects. It is also returned to the extra deck during the end phase of the next turn. So essentially you're just summoning out this big dude who's the 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense beat stick, whose effects you completely ignore, and will return back to the extra deck during the end phase of the following turn, so your turn. Alright. When your opponent activates a spell card or effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, add 1 Supreme King Xyz from your face-up monster zone, special summon up to 1 of each Pendulum Dragon, Xyz Dragon, Synchro Dragon, and Fusion Dragon monster from your hand, deck, extra deck, and or graveyard. So essentially, you're going to be summoning out 4 gigantic boss monsters if your opponent ever chooses to use any spell card on their deck list. Now, one more thing I want to briefly mention with this card, as I know it will confuse a lot of people if I don't. This card, when it specifies a Synchro, an Xyz, a Fusion Dragon, it doesn't necessarily mean an actual Fusion Dragon or an actual Xyz Dragon. What it means is a card with that in its name. So for example, your Brave Eyes Pendulum Dragon, it's only talking about the fact that it has Pendulum Dragon in the name, not that it's actually a Pendulum Dragon, which it's not. And same goes for all the other ones. So this one, although it is a Synchro Dragon, it's more just looking for the fact that it's a Synchro Dragon in the name, or an Xyz Dragon in the name, or a Fusion Dragon in the name. It's not looking for an actual Fusion Dragon, so keep that in mind. I've basically chosen the 4 best ones in Master Duel anyway, so you won't really have to worry about searching for other ones. There's kind of an argument to be made for if you want to run the other version of this card, the level 8 version, but I think this one's better, so I've pretty much chosen the 4 best cards you can run anyway, so just run these 4 dudes. So with this card, you're going to be summoning a copy of your Crystal Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, a copy of your Brave Eyes Pendulum Dragon, a Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, and an Arc Rebellion XYZ Dragon, with the most notable one being the Crystal Clear Wing. This card, once per turn when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can activate this effect. Until the end of this turn, this face-up card is unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent's monsters. Also, it gains attack equal to that opponent's monster's original attack. Once per turn when a spell or trap card effect is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. If the Synchro summon card you control is sent to your graveyard by opponent's card effect, you can add 1 wind monster from your deck to your hand, which doesn't matter because unless you're, well, I guess you could actually be playing a wind deck with this, but generally that effect doesn't matter. All you need to know, this card is basically unaffected by all monster effects. It gains up to God knows what attack, and of course it can negate any spell and trap card your opponent tries to use. Now, unfortunately, your other big dragons they don't really do a whole lot. So your Arc Rebellion, it literally does nothing. It's just a 3000 attack beat stick. Your Brave Eyes does have a nice little effect where when it attacks one of your opponent's monsters, if that monster isn't destroyed by the battle, you can then choose to banish that monster, which does come up occasionally against certain deck lists that have monsters that are immune to destruction, but in general, it's more of just a giant beat stick as well. Your Starving Venom has an interesting effect, but unfortunately it's not really a quick effect, so it's not that useful either, but it can target one level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls until the end phase. This card's name becomes that opponent's name and replaces the card's effect with that monster's original effects. So your opponent has just an absolute gigantic boss monster or something on the field. You can sort of yoink its effects and then just become that card, but that doesn't come up too often, so again, it's just going to be a giant beat stick. The main one is your giant Crystal Clearwing, and then you're going to be summoning just a trillion beat sticks to go along with it. Now, last thing I want to mention with this little combination of cards is if you want to make it more consistent, where if you want to get a hold of this card more often, or you don't want to craft a third one, you can run Trap Trick. This card can banish one normal trap card from your deck, except Trap Trick, and if you do, set one trap card with the same name directly from your deck. It can be activated this turn. You can activate one trap card for the rest of this turn. After this card resolves, you can only activate one Trap Trick per turn. So this card's sort of like an option if you want to run it to go with your Soul of the Supreme King, if you just want to see it more often, especially if you're trying to build a deck that's basically built around this card because it's really fun to play. It's just kind of an option. You don't need to run this card, especially if you're running a trap-focused deck. You wouldn't want to run this because it locks you into one trap card for the rest of the turn, but if you do want to have a more consistent way of getting hold of this card, this does search for it, so feel free. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the deck list portion of the video. The rest of the video will be gameplay showcasing this deck list in action. Now, I didn't actually record any commentary over the gameplay this time, as there isn't really any commentary really needed for this combo, as it's just activate a trap card, smile, so I didn't really record any. Also, I'm kind of running out of time today, so I don't really have the time to record any either, so I just kind of left it at this. If you're wondering what deck list I decided to run during the replays, I decided to run a Shark deck list. No particular reason, it's just because I felt like playing Shark, so I stuffed this card into the deck list, because why not? I just cut a bunch of the extra deck, and that's kind of what I ended up on. A good deck list you could run with this, though, would be Dinomorphia, which likes having your life points halved anyway, but that one also doesn't really like Trap Trick all that much, so it's kind of up to you. This is what I decided to do for the replays. Alright guys, without further ado, let's get into the replays.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh,